For August 4th, 2021. May we have a roll call, please?
Commissioner Lopez,
Here.
Commissioner Jimenez,
Here.
Commissioner Gomez is absent, Vice Chairman Hammond,
Here.
and Chairman Shively.
Here. We can have a moment of silence followed by the Pledge of Allegiance by Commissioner Lopez.
Please stand for the pledge. Ready? Begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Item 5, presentations. There are none. So if we can go to item 6A, Planning Commission meetings for July 21st, 2021. Any commissioner have any errors and omissions that need to be reviewed, added? All right, if we see none, if we can have a motion.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, sir.
before we approve that, we need to provide public comment on the item.
Any member of public wishing to speak on item 6A, either from those present here or in Zoom, can do so. All right, hearing none and seeing none, go ahead and close public comment for item 6A. And if we can have a motion for approval. We have a motion for Commissioner Hammond. And a second from Commissioner Lopez. If we can ask, if we can call out.
Commissioner Lopez,
Yes.
Commissioner Jimenez,
Yes.
Vice Chairman Hammond,
Yes.
Chairman Shively,
Yes.
and Commissioner Gomez is absent. So we have Lopez, Jimenez, Hammond, Shively, yes, Gomez absent.
If we can open the public hearing for item 7A, it's the Draft Community Service Master Plan 2021 through 2031 proposal to comprehensively update the existing 2005 Parks and Recreation Master Plan, focus on accessing the current and future needs and equitable access to community services, parks, and recreations. The applicant, of course, is the City of Paris Service Development. Requested actions to adopt Resolution 20-14 to recommend that the City Council approve and adopt the Community Services Master Plan for 2021 through 2031. We can have a presentation, please.
Yeah, good evening, Commissioner Shiley. This project will be presented by Arsenio Ramirez, our Park Services Manager, this evening.
Thank you.
Good evening, Planning Commissioners. My name is Arsenio Ramirez, Community Services Manager for the City of Paris. I want to start off by thanking you for your time and for the opportunity to present this item to you. In February 2020, the City of Paris began updating its Community Services Master Plan to obtain community-supported direction for developing a diverse and integrated parks and recreation system. The plan will create a vision for sustainable, interconnected system of parks, recreation facilities, open space, and trails that respond to community needs. This master plan is an update to the 2005 master plan adopted when the population of Paris was approximately 41,000. The City of Paris has retained Greenplay LLC, a nationally known parks and recreation management consulting firm, to oversee the plan. Together with Greenplay, city staff conducted extensive community outreach for input for this master plan. This evening, to conduct the presentation, we have Jeff Milkis and Art Thatcher from Greenplay. At the end of their presentation, we will be ready for questions and/or comments related to the Community Services Master Plan. I also want to mention that today with us here, we have the Director of Community Services, Ms. Sabrina Chavez, and our Parks Coordinator, Mr. Joshua Estrada, to address any concerns that you have at the end of the presentation. So now I'll hand it over to both Jeff Milkis and Art Thatcher.
Thank you.
Being controlled. Well, good evening, Chairman and Planning Commission. My name is Jeff Melkis, and I'm a consultant with a company called Greenplay. As Arsenio told you, we started this project back in early 2020 with the intention of looking at all of the parks and facilities and programs and trying to make a determination of where you are now and where we think that the program would need to be in order to provide equitable access to community services, recreation, and parks programs. And there's a lot to it. This process was truly a set of teamwork between Greenplay and the city staff. During the early parts of the pandemic, it was a challenge, but I think that we overcame the challenges in order to engage your community, because this particular plan, as most master plans would be, are really based on the input from your community. It's based on what your community members and yourselves have said and expressed in terms of needs. So I'm going to go right into our presentation here. This is your team. Again, Art is behind me. He's a principal with Greenplay. I was the project manager. I've spent 35 years in the field, and I'm a former Parks and Recreation director. So I approach the planning effort from both a planning perspective as well as a more I'm trying to think of the word I need to use, but looking at in terms of what does the department, what from a day-to-day operations perspective, what are the challenges that they would see. Assisting us was also a gentleman by the name of Dan Cedar, who isn't here tonight. So the 21 master plan is not only a blueprint for recreation maintenance and financing, but it really is the key planning document moving forward. It's the document that encompasses other planning documents as well, so that you've got one particular document you can go back and look at. So I'll take you through the process briefly of where we started and how we got to where we are today. We started with a strategic kickoff where we looked and we talked to staff about determining expectations, a timeline for the project. We looked at what our key focus areas are, what we needed to be aware of, and we started then to gather relevant background information. That background information included documents like your comp plan and the active transportation plan, and documents that talked really not only to the city but regionally, like the Parks Make Life Better campaign. We kept an eye on the CAPRA, the accreditation standards for parks and recreation agencies as well, that establish and look at best practices. So from there, we moved almost immediately, as we could, given the pandemic, into what we called information gathering. So we created and started a needs assessment by talking with and meeting with many members of your community. We started with staff, figured out what their priorities or concerns were. We moved on to some stakeholders. We moved on to focus groups. And we held our first public forum, our first public meeting. And the public meeting was intended to not only provide us input to help begin to base the kind of the learning of the plan on, but also to help populate a survey that would go out a month or a month and a half later. At the same time, we came in and we looked in all of the parks. We did a complete assessment of all assets. We looked at all the areas where the parks were, and rather than just take a look and say, well, they have X number of parks and they have X number of people and the density is, and looking at acres per thousand, we used what we called a component-based process for evaluating the parks, and literally opened up the hood and looked at each component, each part, each thing, you might say, in each park. From there, we mapped the information that we gained. We put it into GIS. We looked at not only the quality of what we had and the quantity, but really what was the general feel in each of the parks and how functional things were. We went in and we created a community profile next so that we would have an idea not only where is the city now, but where would the city be headed in the future. We looked at population, and I'll share where we ended up with there. But we also, in addition to demographics, we looked at what nationally and regionally and locally the different kinds of trends that may impact the city and the department moving forward. So once we had that in place, then we went ahead and we came to what we called our findings and visioning process. And at that point, we had the results of the evaluation of the parks as well as results from the community survey. And I'll share with you in a moment the actual numbers of survey responses and the like. So again, we came back, we started talking to even more people. We knew where we were on a particular point in time after the second public forum for findings that we held. Almost immediately, we sat down with key staff members and started the process of what we called visioning. And we took those items that we felt were key issues and that came to us from your community as key issues, and then for the very first time started thinking about what can we do with those issues? What is the answer that the department may want to implement or investigate in order to address some of those key issues? At the same time, we took a very deep dive into the recreation program. We took a deep dive into operations and maintenance. We looked at marketing. We looked at financial issues with the department. We also looked at how organizationally the department stacked up against other typical organizations. So from there, we, after receiving input during the findings and visioning process, we started to create and did create then a number of action items, goals, objectives, and then recommendations as action items. And these were done hand in hand with the department to ensure that the plan is implementable and it's possible to move forward, that there aren't things that are extremely difficult or outlandish. We want the plan to be aspirational, but we also want it to be possible. We simply don't look to master planning as a document that would sit on the shelf, because there's 742 recommendations and a cost of $6.8 billion. We know that isn't possible. So from there, we looked at what the short and the long-term opportunities were, and we're now to the point where you see a circle. We've got a final plan, but that's a little misleading, because really the plan, although it's in a formatted version, the engagement process continues this evening. And so we're looking to ask for your review and advice and comments as well to still be incorporated. And the same will go when we go to the City Council at the end of the month. So in terms of content, we'll go to, we'll take a look at the slide here. You can see that really population in 2020 was just about 79,000, stably, a little more stable as you get from 25 to 30 in our, in our analysis. But the key number here to see is what was the population in the year 2000. To go from 36,000 to 84,000 people is a significant jump, and something that we did see as we did the analysis and did the research was that the city has done a pretty good job attempting to keep up with that growth in terms of adding some adding park space and the like. So This is who we spoke with, and I wanted to ensure that you saw. We had 507 people that participated in your community that helped to guide this plan. Everything from sports group leaders, you can see, to civic group representatives. In fact, I think Kenneth was one of the members of the folks that helped speak with us, spoke with us. Overall, we held focus groups. We had one focus group translated into Spanish, which was really neat. 6 stakeholder interviews, 184 random invitation survey responses, 226 open link survey responses. Overall, we're confident that what your community told us is represented in the plan. These were the reoccurring themes that came from the engagement. In the parks, concerns about homeless and safety and security issues. And I would add that the department has taken affirmative steps over the last year and a half in order to already address some of these issues having to do with cleanliness and maintenance. It's listed here because that's what we heard from the community. But as you know, there's been a realignment within the department, a realignment of the responsibilities there. A new aquatic facility really represents the greatest need in the community as we understand it. Throughout, there are amenities or components in the parks that could use some assistance. Some of them, it's just time. There's a lifespan of park amenities. Maintaining a diversity in terms of communication in the way that people receive information in comparison to the way that they wish to receive information can make a significant difference. And we believe that that is partly responsible for the fact that there's a fairly low return in terms of the amount of money that comes in terms of fees in comparison to in terms of what's spent on recreation programs. We also know that it's a real priority for the department and the city to make things very affordable, and so we acknowledge and respect that. Trails, connectivity, and walking opportunities, very important to the community. It was important in the original Trails Master Plan that we reviewed, as well as, of course, the Active Transportation Plan. So what would happen, what would need to happen in order to increase use of parks? So safety and security was far and away the top the top item that your community told us. Better lighting goes hand in hand with that, and then you can see improvement in maintenance, as the department's already acknowledged and is working on. Improved communication, facilities closer, and you can read what the others are saying. Those are things that if you take those steps, you're likely to get more people into the parks. You're likely to see more folks participate. So again, as I said, we came in and we started to look at all of the parks and all of the components. And this is just a map where you can see all of the individual parks. This just tells you only where they are. It doesn't necessarily give you a picture as to equitable access. That's we have that on some other other maps. But it does show you that there are, I think there's 26 parks spread out, 180 some acres, and it's a healthy system. The inventory and the site visits, when we came out, these were some of the comments that we found, that there are good standards for signage and park amenities. Although, as you'll see if you've had a chance to look at the recommendations, a wayfinding program, better signage in some cases we think can help the system. Opportunity to expand turf reduction was something that we noticed in these days of these challenging droughts. There are ways that we can use even less water and continue to attempt to keep things green as we can, but try to expand those reduction efforts. Add loop walking trails. We heard a lot about shade. We know that there are, the facilities right here on this campus. They are centrally located, but having facilities separated out in the community can always help participation. So within the master plan, this is just a sample to show you. We mapped each component using GIS resources and have a list of each and every component, so you know where each bench is and each drinking fountain is. From all of that, we ended up with a score. We rated again these components 1, 2, and 3, and we realized that when your department is going to be setting priorities and deciding how do they spend their next year's budget or create their capital improvement plan, these kinds of ratings can kind of float to the top, and they tell us that in each of these individual parks, these were the lower rated components and the lower rated areas. These particular charts or tables we've got can be sorted to help even more prioritization in terms of what to look at first. Where are those low-hanging pieces of fruit versus bigger investments? We looked at pedestrian zones because we know that just having an equitable access to a park system or having a park that's down the road, that there are some barriers that would keep people from being able to walk to a particular park. We know that the city's one of their main goals is to have every community member within about a 10-minute walk to a park, which is a great and worthy goal. However, even though you might be across the street from a park, if there's a major thoroughfare, it simply isn't necessarily possible. And what you see in front of you, those purple lines represent areas that are kind of carved out by issues or barriers from being able to walk from one space to the other. And we'll show you how that kind of manifests itself here. So you can see we did an analysis, a heat map, to show where your walkable access is. The purple area, just to make it simplified, is good. The yellow area is okay, and the gray area may be questionable, but much of that gray area may also be industrial. And so you wouldn't expect, if you don't live there, to have a park within those distances. So you can see that there are certain areas there that look okay, and if you've got some areas that are more yellow or into gray, that could tell us that that's a priority in order to put a park in that area or increase the ability to walk to those particular parks so that you can gain some better walkable access. Here we looked at neighborhood access to see where there was access for people to get to a park versus they're just not available within a short period. So you can see, or a short distance, you can see the service areas there, and as those get darker, those folks that lived in those areas had greater access. So if you have lighter areas, then there's less access. The gray area, there's really limited access, and this really applies to the parks mainly. So there was a fairly reasonable distribution of parks, but we know that there are some areas that are lighter colored, and those would become priorities in order to improve the system. So at the same time, we also started to look at what can we do in some of those parks so that there are opportunities to increase the access, meaning that again, if you live across the street or down the street from a park, and in this case maybe you can walk to it, it doesn't necessarily mean that there are components in that park that you can make use of. So we mapped out many of the parks, and these are all in the plan, that show that there are opportunities for infilling, placing a ball field or placing a dog park in some of these areas. You can see there's areas of square footage there that correspond to the component or the improvement that could be made. And on the chart and throughout each of the parks, this is just one sample, you can see where each of those might fit or might work. So when we got to our recommendations, we really wanted to look at what can we do to maintain the system, what's going to be sustainable, what can we do to improve it, priority timeframes. As the slide shows, we created action items that went in short term from 3 years, midterm 4 to 6, and long term 7 to 10, acknowledging the fact that it's possible or probable that some of the long term items may not be accomplished during the planning period, but may end up as short term in the next update to the master plan. We also have some that kind of mix over. We have some items in there that are really ongoing, and they need to be addressed as an ongoing rather than something that you would maybe create a task force or a capital improvement project for. So here are here are the goals and the objectives, and I'll just briefly go through them so you get a flavor for where we ended up. We looked at personnel policies to meet current and future staffing needs. What we wanted to do here is maintain the effectiveness organizationally and really set the position or set the department up for future growth. And so you could see all of these 8 objectives, and each objective has a number of action items in the plan that correspond to it. Objective 1.8, say at the end, is just to ensure that your parkland dedication in lieu fee ordinance is updated when it needs to be. Each of these are important on their own, but they all add into the idea of maintaining a sense of organizational effectiveness. So the second was to aspire to be a walkable city. 2 of those expand greenways, pathways, and trails right from the city's active transportation plan, as well as look again at doing and addressing those items that will allow the community members to get access within a 10-minute walk to their parks. Continue to improve and enhance programs and service delivery was another goal, and we wanted to acknowledge and really have a focus area on the recreation side of Parks and Recreation. And so we looked at community events, additional recreation opportunities, have an emphasis a bit on a more formalized evaluation process. These are all areas as objectives that really can help recreation programs to thrive. The fourth goal is to expand quality park experiences, and this really goes to looking at the maintenance, prioritizing safety, perhaps a new recreation or aquatics facility. Continue to expand and probably foremost take care of what you have. So these were some samples here, or examples of, these are right from the plan, of action steps. And you can see for each one, we looked at what the cost would be in terms of capital. We looked at what the operational budget impact might be, and then the time frame to complete, whether it's ongoing, short-term, midterm, as you said. The plan itself gets into quite a bit of detail, more detail than I think I can present right now, going down to each park in terms of what potential improvements can be, and where each of those are and how that can impact. There's a bit of prioritization that's there, as well as quite a bit of discussion especially in the appendices for dealing with some of the key issues that we acknowledged in the plan. So that's all that I have in terms of a formal presentation, and you have the document. So at this point, we can answer questions if you'd like.
Commissioner Hammond, you want to go first? You want to go last? Okay.
Go ahead.
No, he's going to go last. He's going to go last.
No, recommendation. It's too long.
It's too long? I'll ask.
No, go ahead.
Okay, so before you, please see the updated resolution. And in conclusion, staff is recommending that the Planning Commission adopt resolution number 21-14, recommending that the City Council approve and adopt the City of Paris Community Service Master Plan at the August 31st council meeting. And then we are here and open for to answer any of your questions or address any concerns.
Commissioner Jimenez.
One of my questions was, I see that you did the colors based on access, but were those analyzed for the amount of population that would be used? Because I live by the Frank Eden Park, and there are times where it's like really, really high traffic. There's not a lot of patrol in that area. I'm glad you noticed that dugouts were uncovered. But that area has a high density household, and those households are pretty large. So even though we're within that 10-minute walking distance, the density would be very high. Was that taken into account when we were looking at these layouts?
Yeah, there are, especially in one section of the level of service analysis, there is discussion about density within the city and in terms of parks.
Okay. And was there any talk about how the homeless population, the issues, how they would be addressed?
Yes, in fact, at length. We talked about opportunities both when the department builds new parks and what's possible to do now in terms of whether it's arrangements or agreements with public safety. It's ensuring that there are clear views from one park to the other. We used a model of crime prevention, we call it SEPTED, through environmental design, and tried to suggest that we can still implement even though some of those parks are already built. Again, if you look at one area from one side of the park to the other, if there are, say, activation going on, the department maybe has additional concerts. We know that when there are programs and activities that occur, that a lot of the bad things that or inappropriate things may go away. And again, there's quite a substantial number of opportunity ideas in the plan.
Just to add a little bit to that, internally we're already providing some additional programming, some additional events at some of these locations in order to try to push away from some of the negative activity at our local parks. But as you know, we have the SWAG team out there, and we communicate with them, with PD, with code enforcement, to try to eliminate some of that negative activity that you see at our parks.
Okay, is there also a plan to report it? Because I wouldn't know where to call, and I live in the community, and there's been times where I've left my daughter during distance learning because she wanted to work from the park. And there was a couple of times where there was very questionable, I guess, interactions going on there, where I would go and pick her up just because she didn't feel safe.
Yeah, no, we completely understand. As mentioned by Mr. Milkis, our Parks Division recently came over to the Community Services Department, and we are working on not only providing a number, but also providing park ambassadors to be out at the parks, and for you to be able to see more city presence there and be able to possibly directly report to them. And if not, a number should be provided hopefully soon, which we're establishing a line that goes directly to our Parks Division in order for us to address those issues.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Commissioner, we've also recommended review and consideration of additional parks positions, ambassador positions and the like, in order to combat that as population continues to grow.
You have any further questions?
Not right now.
Okay. Commissioner Lopez.
Yes, my question is in regards to the funding of the program. You guys mentioned that if adopted, the city will proceed to seek grant opportunities to implement the plan. How much of my question is how much will be relied on grants versus the actual city budget towards tax?
The city budget council is they like us providing programming at reasonable costs and events and activities. The grants that we go after, and we have a public health division in our team, and they're the ones that really are focused on getting some of those grants in order to provide additional programming from what we already offer that will continue, that we don't foresee changing. We just want to be able to have additional funding to provide even more to our residents in our community. So those are the grants that we go after. We're also going after grants in order to provide more parks in our community. We're in the process of what we submitted for Prop 68 grants. So we're waiting on those results. We're hoping that we get those monies in order to improve our parks, expand our parks, and add additional parks in our community. But as far as grants and the money that's already there, at this time, we don't foresee it changing. We hope that we can continue that. And with the grants that come in, we just hope that it grows and we're able to offer more.
Thank you.
No further questions? Thank you. I got a couple questions. If
You better go.
you want to go first?
Yeah, I may have to go last.
Okay. Yeah. So you spoke about park ambassadors. What is the scope of this park ambassadors, and what authority will they be having?
Well, as far as authority, they're going to be the face of our parks. So currently we were able to bring one on board for now, and he's already out at the parks. As you already might know, we have our organizations such as AYSO or Pony Baseball that reserve our parks for their practices or their games. So we want our ambassadors to go out there, to know the community, to know that area, know that park, so that they can, I guess, in a sense, become friends with that community, and they are trusted and seen out there in order for them to be somewhat of an authority figure in the sense that, okay, we have city representation here, and hopefully that eliminates and pushes away some of that negative activity. And they're going to be reporting back to our park coordinator, back to our team, in order for us, if there is any issues, address those right away. But as far as, I think you're more thinking of a park ranger where they have a little bit more authority and a little bit more force. We're trying to prevent that in order for our community to feel good about seeing our park ambassadors out there, at least for now, at this time.
So are you looking at a quantity of park ambassadors that they have they take care of 5, 6 parks
Yes,
each,
that's the goal. So we're starting off with one now, and we're going to hire another one. And then if it works out and everything works well, we hope to bring more on board. Currently, they are in a part-time position. They work more evenings and weekends because during the day, our staff is here. Our park guys are out in the parks. So we're hoping before the end of the year, we have 2, and you'll see them out in the evening time and on the weekends at our local parks.
Okay, do you have a park time versus office time? How is there, you want them 95% in the park? And
We
something
want
like
them
that?
99% of the time out in the parks, and they'll have devices, laptop to work out of their vehicle whenever having to report, and then on to the next park.
Excellent.
And just making their rounds. Yes.
Okay. So I saw their map of the parks in the city. We know the areas of industrial zones, but it really would be good to actually show it on those maps so that we can actually understand where the parks are more needed. We don't really need them in the industrial zones because it's just workers up there. In 2 areas of the city, there's industrial zones. If that can be carved out in these maps, it might be able to be understand more where parks are needed.
Okay. There is a map in the master plan. It's got bright colors on it, and I think it will speak a little bit better to it. But we'll definitely take a look at that before we go final on the plan.
Can you tell us what the GRASP score is?
Absolutely. The GRASP score is an opportunity to look at each component and rate it and rank it. And that score is, let's see if I can explain it easily. You open up the hood and you look underneath and you look at the, like say in a parking or in a parking lot or a drinking fountain, and you review it and score it on a 1, 2, or 3. That it's either a very good amenity, it's very functional, or it's there, but its lifespan, it's still got some more time, or no, it's challenged, it needs to be replaced, it's not functional anymore. You add those up individually as well as collectively for a particular park. And then that GRASP score, you're able to look at a collective number of those ratings. And those all in combination can be compared to other parks nationwide. And so that score, you have some scores that you might have some parks that are rated very, very high. You've got some parks that aren't rated very high, probably because they don't have components at all or have few components. Those parks that have a good mix of components that are very functional, obviously will score more. It's a little more complicated than all of that, but I think that's the best way to explain it.
Okay. At any time for funding, has anybody just brought up an idea of having a local company sponsor a specific park and work with the city to maintain it and take care of it?
There's been discussions. What we do to bring out the community, we'll have local park cleanups. I know that some of our local businesses, and maybe our director can share, have donated, and we've been able to add a lot of amenities. For example, over at Copper Creek, the multi-purpose court that you see out there was from a donation that came from a local business. We also added the restroom there at Copper Creek because of a donation from a local business. But as far as them adopting a park, we haven't fully got into those discussions just yet. But I don't know if any other donations have come from businesses.
No, we don't. Well, currently we have a community sponsorship program in place, and as our community services manager, Arsenio Ramirez mentioned, Copper Creek Park, the multi-purpose court, and the restroom was a donation from an industrial developer, and when it comes to adopting a park, those are because parks just recently merged in community services. So we had to establish the park maintenance, what are the needs, and in the future and as part of this plan, that's something that we would like to look into to be able to develop in the future. For example, with Copper Creek Park, once we completed those two projects, the restroom and the multi-purpose court, we saw more residents at the park, utilize the park, wanting to get more involved and vocal. We were getting phone calls. I got a visit from a resident, kind of championing, saying, look at these pictures. We're very appreciative of the city to be able to add these features because now we see residents and kids using the park where we didn't see anybody at the park. They're making recommendations for signs. So down the line, we'd like to establish some like park champions for each park and some type of adopt. So it's in the works. It's going to come. We have a great creative team. So we're hoping to establish that in the near future.
Thank you. Commissioner Hammond.
Attorney, I'm not sure if I have a recommendation, so I don't know if I should do it now or wait till after public comment, because mine's going to be long, extremely long. So do you want public comment first and then we come to the commission, or how should they?
So, Mr. Vice Chair, are you asking if
I should do now or wait till it comes to our discussion?
I think for now, you should continue to ask questions of
Yeah.
staff,
Yeah,
and then
I'll have
after we do the public hearing section, at that
Okay.
point, we can recommend amendments and so forth.
Okay, then I better wait.
Commissioner Jimenez has another question, sir.
This is very long.
Thank you. Sorry, my allergies started kicking in. Yeah. One of my questions would be, did we think about sustainability and long-term, the financial impact? Because, I mean, it's cool right now. We're going to have ambassadors. We're building new parks. We're building new things. We're thinking about upkeep now, and we're only planning till 2031. But I'm thinking about the long-term and maintenance, just because, I grew up in Paramount, and those parks were, beautiful at first, or I saw pictures from when they were beautiful. And years later, the sustainability is not there because the focus shifts, the impact shifts, the dynamics change. So instead of being a community park, now it was gang run. And we didn't feel safe. Like everybody knew if you're walking home, you avoid this park, you take the long way just because of the safety. So I'm thinking about the long-term financial impacts. Are we prepared for that? Love the ambassador idea, but how really financially long-term sustainable is that?
We think about this when and the assistant city manager that's here and our director know that I push and make sure that we address that with this new park that's coming, we're gonna need staff. I'm gonna need staff to be able to maintain this park, keep that park looking nice. As you mentioned, we don't want a new park, have it nice for a year, and then we let it go. That's not our goal. With the Parks Division and now under Community Services Department and under our watch, we are out there. We're changing our plan. If it develop a plan, if that doesn't work, then we change it up to make sure that we stay on top of that. Now, granted, there is times we get calls where we might miss something. You might see some trash out there that we didn't pick up, but we try to get on that right away, which is part of the plan that we have in place as far as providing numbers for the residents to call. Our Parks Coordinator just brought up to my attention that our ambassadors will be working with the local neighborhood watch groups, also to have that connection with them that they can relay that information to us right away. So as far as sustainability, that's our goal. We want to make sure that we continue to have our parks looking nice. Something unique that we're going to hopefully bring in the near future is more programming at different locations of the city. And if we're doing that, you're going to be seeing us out there more often, which means that if you have a complaint, we're going to be there and we need to address it right away. So in the past, programming was based out of here, maybe Patriot Park, another local park or Mercado, but now we're going to extend as Copper Creek now has a futsal court. We started programming in the summer internally. We're hoping to reach out to, we have a new field over at Morgan Park, so you'll see us out there. So internal programming is going to start happening at different locations, which hopefully will lead to us making sure that we keep a close eye to any of the maintenance that needs to happen at those parks.
Yeah, just real quickly, just my understanding of the plan is a master plan laying out all the things that the city wants to accomplish through the community services department. Along the budgeting line, ultimately, at the end of the day, is what the council want to prioritize, what's the improvements, and that's based on the feedback that's in the plan. Okay. So as we talk through these items, just recognize that this is the ultimate plan. What are the priorities? But ultimately, all that budget comes down to the grant that's available and the allocation for community services by the year-by-year budget. So, but those are good questions, but I just want to just confine that, just to understand that there is a priority list and they have to kind of figure that out with council direction.
Okay.
Yes, and exactly, I was going to mention, sustainability is always a key factor. We're going to be closely monitoring and assessing each fiscal year. And as planning manager mentioned, each year we develop priorities. We present it to Parks and Recreation Committee. Okay, what are going to be the priorities moving forward? Because we are growing, our population is growing, we are getting new parks. But right now, the vision and the intent has been to look at our existing parks. How can we improve them? So we're strategic and seeking grant funding resources. There's CDBG funding. We have benefit zone funding. We have, various grants opportunities. Prop 68, we just submitted 2 applications for Copper Creek Park and Fossfield Park. And, and we make those recommendations. So at the end of the day, again, it's important. Sustainability is what we want to see, financial, and be able to do within, the budgets that we have.
Okay. One more. And for the ambassadors, I know they're working evenings and nights, and I like that because that was going to be one of my questions because, a lot of the issues happen during that time. Where we think about partnerships, I know not last year, 2 years ago, the school where I work at, we had a community event at the local park at Frank Eden Park. And all the teachers went, we took a bunch of books, and it was a family reading event. And it would be nice to have more opportunities for the local schools to also use the parks or I remember being a kid and our field trip was walking to the park and having a picnic, and that was a big hurrah.
Yeah, we try to have those relationships pretty close when it comes to the schools and working with the schools. We're often providing programming. Our public health division provides programs at the local schools. And if we're invited to an event or an activity, we'll go out there. So those relationships are key to us.
Yeah, I'm thinking with the ambassadors, it would be great, like with their
Yeah.
community, connecting with the community, but connecting to the community schools as well, because that would be a bigger bridge to really get the people involved in the park and feeling like we're part of it and welcome and own it.
Definitely, yes.
Yes, and if I may add, and that's one of the things that we want to encourage is the pride and ownership of the residents for the parks. You know, we'll be looking at recruiting volunteers, getting the youth out there, you know, again, park champions and the coordinating park cleanups. So those are some of the you know, the type of programming. And now post-COVID is getting programming to the parks because, yeah, a few of us talk and we walked to the parks and stayed there all day, and we met with recreation leaders, and you know, and that's something that we want to bring to the city of Paris, and that's what we envision.
And then we had summer jobs as those recreation leaders.
Yes, exactly.
That's how I started.
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you.
That was it for me.
Commissioner Lopez, you have any follow-up questions? All right. Okay. So, is there any member of public, either present now or on Zoom, wishing to speak on this matter? Please come to the podium. And please state your name.
Nanette Placencia. Yeah. Nanette Placencia, can you hear me okay?
Yep.
I'm just speaking as a resident who uses the park a lot. I live right down the street from one in particular, Morgan Park. And I also coach soccer, so I'm there all the time. And one of the biggest things was that I would hear from families and people that would use it was always safety. So the first thing is safety was always on their mind. They loved the parks and then the improvements on, you know, some of them and the new ones, but they were always concerned about the safety issues. So if that can be a big priority on safety and patrol, a lot more parents would feel safe going there to use it. They want to use it, but just safety was more the you know, on their mind. And another thing would have been improving some of the things that we have because they're a little outdated. For instance, like the drinking fountains. Maybe, you know, a new modern kind that I've seen some other parks with where you put your water bottle and it fills it up for you. People now, especially because of COVID, are more hesitant to use the old-fashioned kind of, you know, water faucets. So I would say, like, yeah, just improving older things and the restroom facilities. That was another big challenge. Not having enough of the items in the restrooms, you know, like sanitation-wise. So maybe improvements into the older restrooms and the drinking fountains. That would help a lot of residents feel better about going there and using those facilities. But those were just a lot of issues that, you know, I would hear a lot of talking to parents. And then maybe too, because we have such hot summers. So maybe looking into when we start to make more parks, having some sort of system where the kids can run under like water things that, you know, kind of like a water park in a way, but, you know, little things where the kids can run under and get wet in the summertime because it's just so hot here now. So maybe installing things like that into the future parks that we are going to start to create and maybe just adding some of that so the kids could get wet in the summertime. But those are just maybe the main concerns I would hear from parents and we would talk about since we're always there in the evening all day. We'd be there until the late evening, you know, till 9:00 p.m. And we would start to see more older kids or cars come into there and, you know, kind of who knows what they're doing, but we would just like, you know, not just feel as safe and we would hope that security patrol, the cars would come around more often because we notice when they do come around more often, it seems to, you know, really make a difference when they're present. You know, so there won't be nothing going on there, you know, mischief and stuff. So,
Thank you.
But other than that, yeah, you know, I appreciate everything that the Parks and Recs have been doing and improving on. It's good. It's really great.
All right, thank you. I would encourage you to speak to the director as well, to give her your input as well.
Okay. Okay, thank you very much.
Great, thank you. Any other member of the public wish to speak on this matter? Everett, is there anyone on Zoom that wishes to speak? Seeing none and hearing none, and go ahead and close public comment and bring it to the commissioners for discussion. No? Go ahead.
I'm going to drop a bombshell on you, and it's not bad, but you may have to be there a while. And I'm going to preface it by saying that first and foremost, and thank you for giving me the time, I'm really making this presentation to our fellow commissioners. I want them to see a copy, and I think you should implement it. One of the things, let me give you the background. Of my 35 plus years in city government, and having worked for the city of Los Angeles, having made presentations to general managers at city council, and they're really vicious in LA, I'm here to tell you. But you have to do things like what I'm doing here. You have to give like executive summary. You have to talk about things from a city employee standpoint, which I did, but also from the departmental standpoint and from the community. I would not begin to try to represent the community if I was a city employee, other than saying I'm working, but you're not independent. So one of the reasons why I suggest that you have a Recreation and Parks Commission, I got only through J, I could have gone through 50. I read the entire report. Let me preface it by saying I'm going to be here a while. That the report was excellent. It's the most detailed, accurate thing. I'm biased because Sabrina and I are USC people, so I'm a little biased. Judy, I'm certainly glad, and we're biased. This is like a reunion of the old timers. And so I have nothing bad to say about the department. This will help you. There were several things that were said before I get to this, and you can see the reasons why I'm recommending this on the front page. It's really not something you could dispute. You really need to think about it. Number one, in looking at the goals and objectives, the word staff came up a lot. The problem with that is it's fiscally almost impossible to continue to pay staff to do that because you're wearing and tearing them. I'm biased towards city employees because I was one. So you're really putting a lot on staff to make decisions that are at a level and all the things, and I listened to all that, I even listened to the speakers talk about, we can't do anything as a planning commission. But you don't have an intermediary in between to go make recommendations to us or to the council. That's one of the reasons you do it. Number one, let me go through the list real quick. When you have a Recreation Parks Commission, Community Service Commission, whatever you want to call it, it prioritizes recreation and parks in the city. See, this automatically, I'm surprised you didn't recommend this, guys, but this prioritizes it. We hear council talk about it, we hear staff talk about it, you hear plan. This puts it in writing and guarantees it. It's not legislatively required by the state, it's not required by the county. It's one of those things where you do it. There are other cities, and I pointed out 4 cities, and I'll get to those in a minute. It established independent citizen review. So when you have a commission, they're independent residents of the city that can do reviews and oversight for establishment of recreational programs, park facilities. If I'm working in staff, I want somebody else to take the heat, okay? So I would want that independent body to be able to make those decisions and make recommendations along with your departmental staff, who is an excellent staff. If you don't do this, there are other cities I'm giving you that do it, okay? Monitor the use of park facilities. You talk about calendar events. You're putting it all on staff to do it. Okay? Special events like Christmas parade, Veterans parade, every kind of parade. They require vendors. They require all kind of activity. That's a lot on staff. I hope you're willing to pay that budget, because when you have an intermediary that's made up of residents, and it could be 13 residents. It doesn't have to be 5. It can be as many as you want. When the city of LA started the Family Source Centers, you can look it up on the website. I was one of the people who helped start it. And there are 4 million residents in the city of LA. Can you imagine how hard that was? 16 sites We as employees were not going to tell the community what they wanted. We went out in the community and did meetings. We set up indicators. You call them matrix, we call them indicators. I had 35, and I did all the stats for the department, for the family source centers. I did. Okay? So I know about indicators, and what you did, you followed it per month. For example, what kind of services did they come into these family source centers to do? It might be immigration services. It might be legal services. I tracked it on a month on Excel. Didn't get paid for this. I did this voluntarily. We could track that, and that gave you a snapshot of where things were. Take it to parking. You want to know, you have these programs, and they're all centralized. That's another issue, too. But you have these programs established. 20 spots, 2 people show up. You have to start having a governing body and say, is that being evaluated? There is no formal evaluation, and it has to be independent. I could not evaluate that program. It had to be done by an independent auditor. No one's going to believe me as a city employee because everything's going to be rosy. So you need independence. You need indicators. You need to know if you're going to have a program at Fossfield, you're going to have a Zumba class, whatever they call it. You have 20 slots. Nobody's showing. Is it because it's in fall? Is it because it's in spring? Is it because it's in summer? Nothing goes on at these facilities in summer outside because it's too hot. So what do you do in those off months for revenue? Okay, LMD, which is your maintenance district stuff, and I'm showing is 50%. That's ridiculous. 50% of your cost is covered by that, and you don't know if your fees are there in private industry. We say if I'm charging $40 for something and it costs me $50, I'm losing money. That's what this commission does. You bring it forth, they start investigating it, and that's what it does. It prioritizes the uses of cost fees for events, resource allocation, what is paid through user fees and what is appropriate. Am I charging $20 for a class? I may say it is the city, but you're paying too much because I'm poor. So maybe I can pay $10. How are you going to know that? You have to have a mediator. You have to have someone investigate that only, and it's independent because that's what the auditor will tell you. Okay, the auditors at CPA are not going to be nice. They're going to go, hey, it's costing you $10, it's costing you 20 in the city, you're losing money. You got a problem. And they're not going to be nice people because I've had CPA auditors. Okay? Acts along with the department as a liaison with schools, nonprofit organizations, Boys and Girls Clubs is one of them. Riverside County, none of that's here. And you need a liaison for the staff that backs up your staff. So when you go to the school district, and you know how those principals are, you want this board to have them come forward, just like the Planning Commission, and now you're dealing with them. The perfect example on here, guys, and I'll go through the list, is the Planning Commission. The Planning Commission is a buffer to the City Council. There's a reason why you have Planning Commission, because I can focus on planning issues. The City Council has the ultimate decision, but I can laser focus on blueprints. I can laser focus on streets and architecture. You can't do that if you don't have the mediation. Staff is only going to do so much. We are legal responsibility. There are legal requirements for the Planning Commission. Rec and Parks can be very open. It's ordinance-based. So you can have 50 people on it. You can have a council person pick each one, and they can represent it from each community, okay? It helps to achieve, and here's one of the keys, multiculturalism and racial diversity. If there's no other reason to do it, that's the reason. You got to cream if you're favoring one group over the other. So you want this board to be racially diverse and ethnically diverse. So when they come out here and say, and they present to the council, this board is diverse, and this board is diverse. You want that mediation so you don't have a problem later. Why is this park side on the southwest side getting more attention than the north side? You already have that in your thing, right? Complaining, we get more facilities. I'm trying to save you guys, okay? So when you have a mediation board, those complaints like yours, because we can't do anything, the Rec and Parks, whatever you call it, can be your mediator. I don't normally do this, guys, but I'm a city employee, so I have to act like one now. Promote budget issues related to recreation park. They will promote it for you and with you. When you have mediation, outside, especially state and feds, love to deal with the fact that you have commissions. In LA, we have the Community Action Board. Council picked them, the community picked them, and they grilled us, and I loved it because I gave them the stats, and they were not like the council. They represented the community and gave their recommendation to council. Went to the HUD like that, went to the state like that. because just because we had a mediation board that was diverse, ethnically and racially diverse, stopped all the feds. When you don't have that, they cream us. What is the staff making all decisions? That's what we got. No, we have a community action board made up of every representation of the city, every nationality, everything went through. That's why you do it. Prioritize budget, aid the city in developing an evaluation of all these programs, and to ensure independent audits and programs. That's why you have a board. Okay? So these are just some of the things. And I mentioned, like the Planning Commission, you can laser focus on recreation park and trails and security issues. You bring them before this commission, they contact with public safety, and now you have issues citywide. They mediate with the public safety. Now you've got it going. Public safety, county, because the county supervisors like to get on it too. The county, the school district, the principals. You have how many school districts out here? So they can bring them here and bring them before the board, and now you get ideas from that are formalized to go to the city council. Okay? A lot of staff time and oversight in this thing. But public awareness, marketing was one of the things you talked about. Who's going to do that? You start bringing your ideas to a commission, whether it's community services, whether it's whatever you call it. Then now you have mediation and you have time to deal with it. They don't have to meet like we do, but they need to act as mediators to your city council. This city, when I came, like 20,000, is not going to be that. It might even get to 90,000 in 3 years. You're not going to be able to handle it. As much as I love them, you're not going to handle it. The demands are going to increase, demands on park space, demands on park programs. You listed all these programs. It's nice for the national to talk about it. They don't live here. You want people who live here. And the real test is not how much money they pay, it's what programs they actually come and fill the slot for. It's not what the city pays, it's what do they come and they want. Do they want weight training downstairs in the city hall, Foss? Or is it 2 people signing in or 500 people signing in? Or are they coming to the Zumba classes? Are they coming to basketball? They say basketball. I'm not sure about that one. But basketball at 7%, well, that's taken when? During COVID? Okay, is that really realistic throughout the city? You may have to break down the city into different segments. Okay? Now, let me go into this real quick, and I appreciate the time. Murrieta, California, you don't have this, has 119,239. I picked Murrieta. They have a Recreation Parks Commission. Okay? 119,000, they have a Recreation Park Commission. You can see on the page what their duties are. Advise City Council and Director of Parks and Recreation. They advise them. Departmental budget, capital improvement. You talked about improving equipment. They make the recommendations. You make the recommendation through them. Okay? This works. I'm not talking about anything that doesn't work and haven't done. This will work. It cooperates with other agencies and civic groups in advancement on park and recreation planning and program. Your planning and things will go mediated through a group of people that are independent, racially diverse, and multicultural. I think I'd want that if I worked for the city, because it's not going to do well if you don't have it. But you look at what they do. They inventory lists that are existing and needed recreation service. You go through them, and they work with you. So when you say you have to go to the council and say, I want a budget, I've gone to that commission and made the plea. The commission makes the recommendation to the council. Big difference, right? Commission is made up every part of the city, every possible ethnicity, every possible everything comes to this commission, and they make the recommendation. Okay? These are things that work, guys. Menifee, Parks, Recreation, and Trails Commission. I'm not going to go through all this, obviously, but I'm making the point. These are already established in your area. Menifee has what, 97,000 people? We may be there, you don't know, but 97,000, one of the things they established, got to have Parks and Recreation Commission. They're not going to sit there and go to the council directly. You're going to go to them and make your plea and let them, along with you, make your plea to the city council. Looks a lot better. I'm just telling you from 35 years experience, guys. Okay? There's no way I could sell that family source program if we didn't go to all 15 councilmen individually and work them over. We had a lot of work to do, but we also had to have the CAB board. No CAB board, no family source program. No community representatives, no program. Second largest city, they said, did you go to the CAB board that represents community? Yes. So it's important to do that just for that reason. Then you have another city, and I keep picking these cities. El Segundo only has 16,504 people, and they have a Rec and Parks Commission. Amazing, right? 16,000 people and they have a Rec and Parks Commission? Really? No, they have a $109,000 total income family, but there's still 16,000 people. Okay. This took research, guys. Okay. And I really cherry-picked some. I could have picked Moreno Valley. I could have picked the other one. It's just to show the point that when you have a buffer, you can do a lot of the things you're talking about. A lot of talk about amenities after a certain period of time, 10 years, 20 years, start going dilapidating. The budget starts coming in, and when you want that budget to come through that committee, you want lots of eyes to see something. Okay. As good as and great as our staff is, please, guys, I'm trying to help you, okay? Because you're going to get burned out. Okay. You're going to get burned out. Then you have City of Banning. Now, that's a weird one I picked out, but they have 31,000. So you see the variety from 16 to 119. All of them have a Rec and Parks Commission. We're the only ones that don't. So what you do is you put full-time equivalent, and I used to do budgeting. I used to do $800,000 budgets, so I'm used to it. The FTE thing is fine, but you constantly have to pay workers' comp, FICA, all these other things have to be in there, insurance, all that has to be paid, so it becomes a real negative cost after a certain period of time, unless you watch the budget. Then you have facility maintenance costs, because the city runs the parks. So you have graffiti removal, you have to talk about landscaping, gardening, water, all these other costs are there. You want to bring those in because it's going to be different in Copper Creek than it is at Metz Park, than it is at Enchanted, different communities. They're going to have different wants. Do you have community centers at each one of these parks? No. Is it necessary? You do research on it through the commission to find out if community centers are something you can do, paid for by developers. Is that something to consider? Those are things to consider. So I'm talking about experience. You're going to want to, and I wouldn't have done this if I wasn't so passionate about parks. Okay? Walking to the 10-mile thing or a 10-minute thing, you know, Metz Park is a detention basin. I'm here to tell you now. Okay? It's basically a detention basin. And it's just not an upkeep. That's just one example. What do you do to improve it? You want ideas from the public. You want ideas from people that live in the area. You want ideas. Enchanted Hills gave you a lot of ideas about what they do, but that's their community. Are they getting the same level of service as you do in May Ranch? Are they getting the same level of service as Copper Creek? Is there one standard unified maintenance thing? No, evidently there isn't. It's not saying it's bad, it's just saying when you don't have the time and you have a lot of expenditures on staff, it becomes an issue. So I'm passionate about making this mostly a notice of consideration, not saying that this is not approved, I'm just saying, you talk about recommendations, this is a final step. Okay. I would not want things to go directly straight to the council. I would want that mediated, worked out like we do here. When they get it, we've gone over it. Okay, like I'm doing it now, right? It's not going to happen there. It's going to happen here. I'm doing it because I'm on the planning commission. So I have the time to go line by line, page by page. They're not going to do that. Okay, 331 pages I read to make sure that your project, that's because you have a commission that's an intermediary. Perfect example is the planning commission. Okay, and look at the project results. We kill these people on architecture, on landscaping. You got to do this, you got to do that. We can do it because that's what we're authorized to do. Same thing with Rec and Parks. You elevate the Rec and Parks to a level that's higher and makes your department much more considered, much more taken seriously, because now you have a commission that's going to back you. In addition to your city council, in addition to us, you've also got a commission of people. It's not a perfect system, okay? It's not meant to be a political dynamite, but it's also something that you can do, and obviously the council has to look at and improve it. But it's something to think about in detail. I gave you a lot of details. There's other cities. These are the points, and I put them in black. They're the main ones. It raises the level, and it also is multicultural. You got to watch that part. Multicultural and racially diverse is going to be the killer. You got to do something to make sure that this city is acting that way. If you're saying no to that, then we have a real problem. Because you have ethnicities in this city and you have racial people in this city, you want to make sure they're represented. Okay, you want to make sure the services you have. Not necessarily that I'm going to go overboard, but you want to make sure the services you have represent the whole community, right? People that are 70, 80, 90, people that are 8 or 9 and 10. Lastly, you have senior citizen center that's downtown. You have a teen center that's part of that that's downtown. If I'm in outlying districts, I can't get to those unless I take a bus or somebody takes me there. That's why you have a commission. How can you work out the transportation problem? How can we work out those issues? Because if you don't have them in Enchanted Hills, they've got to come here to do it. So if I'm 5 years old, I'm going to wait for my parent to drive me here to take a program. You got to think about that transportation connectivity thing, right? Not mentioned, but it's important because if you don't have community centers at each one of these places, it's going to cost. Let the developers pay for it. That's my mindset. But if you don't have them and you only provide services here and services there, each community is going to be different. But if there's no central place to meeting, the summertime kills these programs, right? So what do you do with costs in the summertime when all you have is a grass field? What do you do when you have open playgrounds, but nobody's paying to be on the playground, so you're subsidizing it? See, this is experience talking now. So I'm just saying that you got to think about this seriously, very, very seriously. Take this before you make the final judgment. Take this recommendation, look at it, look at other cities, which if I would do as a city employee, I wouldn't just take my word for it. You know, there's like 20 or 30 of them. I just looked at Riverside County. I could have gone to Temecula, but they're too high priced. But I try to go within our area and scope because I know the first thing, that's what they do in Banning. Oh, right down the street is Murrieta and right down the street is Menifee. And they have them. Okay. Look how many parks we have. What, 27 here? Good gracious, 20, and no one to oversight, no one to really do it other than making staff do all the work. I know you like to get paid more, but come on. And I'm not paid to give you this. This would be a consultant. I would be a consultant doing this if I was paid in that. They would be paying me as a consultant to give you this very thing. And I'm not paid to do it. It's just I'm a caring resident. All these are caring residents. That's why we're up here. So please, I'm only spending this much time because I'm passionately want to lift recreation and parks to a level that is not even just equivalent, but at the city makes it a priority. And the city makes it something that we're going to be proud of, but you want to represent all people that you can. Okay. You want to represent as many people as you can, all age groups, genders, whatever. You want them all represented and have that opportunity because all the programs are going to be different based upon that. Okay. So that was my recommendation.
So thank you for that information. I do believe at one period of time we did have a Parks and Recreation Committee Commission
Committee.
at one time, but I think it's a good recommendation that can possibly be presented by the director and then come forward. So does anybody else wish to speak on this matter, or would you like to continue discussing the document that was presented to us?
I really like that recommendation just because it'll keep things open. I mean, my parents lived with me for a while and they couldn't attend the senior center events out here because it would mean they would have to get in their car, drive for 15 minutes. I brought my daughters to Taekwondo here and they did some music or keyboard lessons here, but it's a far drive and I would like to see kind of those services. And when you have a representative from the area, it transforms because in each community, there's waves. You have first, they're like a bunch of toddlers. They start growing, and they kind of phase out. Or certain groups move in, others move out. We have somewhere, we have a population that's older. We have some that are beginning families, and as that moves and changes, you don't want to always have a Zumba class when you have toddlers. You don't always want to have a senior aerobics class when there's like 2 seniors in that community who probably wouldn't even attend or wouldn't have access to it. So I like that suggestion for us to look into. That I think will help a lot with keeping the park safe and a lot of those issues that need to be prioritized and brought back. And when it's a community member, that's where we spend our times in our community. So thank you for doing this.
Commissioner Lopez?
Mr. Chair, if I may.
Yes, sir.
I just wanted to just sort of, as you stated earlier, to focus the commission on what's before the commission. What's before the commission is the Parks Master Plan. the discussion of the Parks and Rec Commission and the potential to establish that or to reformat the city's code to establish it, that's beyond what's this document is covering right now. So I would recommend that the commission refocus on the document and discuss and go over, the type of services and organizational effectiveness that this document seeks to provide guidance on, and just to remind the commission about that.
Yeah, I think the primary reason that when they made the final, they talked about staff as being the ones that were going to be the ones that you go to. This does not necessarily replace that, but it means that it's one of those things that if you're going to have budget stuff, you're going to have other issues, ultimately, someone's going to have to be responsible for that. Their thing is the staff in the department. So in essence, it's not something that's going to be solved tonight, and you're right. But it's one of those things that's why they didn't say to add it to it. It's something that's a consideration. It's all it is recommendations, because this is a draft. It's one of those things that's very important because it may be the tool that actually makes this thing work. So it's at the end result, when they talked about final, they just have staff. They don't have any recommendation in terms of, other cities have this type of thing to mission, something to look into. Because it's not final, it's just a draft. So that was the main reason, not so much that we expect that to be done tonight. But there's a lot of levels and there's a lot of ordinance, and that was the main reason. Because if you're going to say the end result is the staff overseeing budget, staff overseeing audit, staff overseeing, that becomes an issue for the draft plan. Because if you're going to have these parks, who's going to oversee them? So you got to make a recommendation on that. Because if you're going to leave it to community services, which is fine, but you're going to have the staff to do it. Then, or this is like another recommendation that's a potential long-term. This is a long-term thing. But it's one of those things that ultimately will have to go to obviously the body and have to be a lot more discussion. It's not going to be solved tonight. Okay, nobody expects this to be done tonight. But it's something to think about. And it's on the record, which is why I'm doing it. I'm putting it on the record as one recommendation for that. Because the Planning Commission is not the Record Parks Commission. We're just looking at this in general because they were nice enough to bring it to us, but Planning Commission is not ultimately a Rec and Parks Commission or senior services or youth center services. That's it's good to know, but ultimately it would have to be with somebody, a body.
So
that was the main reason.
Do you have any recommendations in discussions about the document in general?
I think one of the things in the document is they talk about evaluation process. And I think evaluating programs, I kind of mentioned that. When you talk about this, the lack of evaluation, I think it gets down to what you base your evaluations on. In other words, filling slots is one of those things. It's not so much the fact that you fund these programs for 100,000 or 10,000. It's the slots that are filled. But who's going to monitor that? It goes back to my question. To monitor that, you have to say, well, if we have something at Foss Field or we have something at this place and you have programs, then there needs to be an evaluation thing in process, and I think that's important. All programs should have an evaluation tool. And we used indicators. I use indicators there. You may talk service matrix or service things. It's a little different, obviously, because it's based upon people just coming in the door and signing up. Is the fees that you talk about fees, establishing fees, you're going to have to figure out, is the fee cost justified for the actual cost of the program? So those are things that were brought out in there, and I think that's fine. My concern is a lot of staff, emphasis on staff doing things.
At some point in time, there's got to be a staff member overseeing each individual park area, and I think they got some of that covered with the ambassadors. So one ambassador right now, but it's a start, and it's good to have that start and community and being able to work with the community directly. And I like the fact that they intend to have those ambassadors at the parks more than in an office setting, which creates that community involvement, because they could be walking through the park and discussing with what the people want or need, and potentially if the park is large enough or a regional park is more needed, that they can provide additional community services in the north part of town that can be brought up from the ambassadors. as of right now, because there is no Recreation Community Commission. But I do see it's a good document that, it's starting to achieve some of the goals that the city needs, and to improve the park, to improve what we currently have, increase what we do have, is always important. So
Well, I think you said it, and it goes back to piggyback on that though. If you took Copper Creek Park, the ambassador may say there's needs there, but when it comes down to maintenance costs and that, who's going to do that? That person's not going to do that. When it comes down to, or if you're not charging fees, or what are you going to have to do to pay for this, is that cost going to be done by a finance person? It's going to be done by somebody like community services. So if you have a lighting problem and issues like that, they'll say there isn't, but who's going to actually do the follow-up to do that? And where do they bring the complaints to? Because they're going to have to bring it to the department. So that ambassador is there talking about programs, but a lot of these parks are passive. And so you may just go there like Mets. You just go there, you play and have things on. So lights come on, fine. If they don't, they don't. And there really isn't any, if the stuff's broken and this has happened, you don't have a mediation. That's exactly why you need it. So there's no, and that person may see it, but that's a city employee saying it. It's like, I saw stuff. The problem is I have to report it from their standpoint, community, and they see it, and you have to put it in some formalized pattern way to go to the department so they can have the money to fix it. Public Works going to fix it. It's an LMD district, and which one is it in? So there's a lot of steps even just to get benches that are broken, lights that's gone, safety figures. Who's going to contact the public safety on a regular basis? Is that going to be that person? I doubt it. So it's a step beyond. It's also, they make the recommendations. I didn't. This is what's going on in there, that it's going to be a lot staff heavy. And that doesn't mean it shouldn't be approved. I'm just saying the next step is going to be cost of these maintenance costs. Somebody's got to absorb that. And so it's one of those, it's a long-term issue. There's short-term questions, there's long-term questions. But ultimately, this is not the only answer.
No, but I definitely think
Yeah, but
there's two avenues here.
Yeah.
One is the maintenance of the park, which I
Yeah.
believe is part of the fiscal budget.
Mhm.
And then there's part of it that is the
Mhm.
programs that they have, which is, two different
Yeah.
discussions, right? The programs need to be being able to be self-supporting.
Mhm.
Unless
the question.
unless the council decides to, fund a portion of the cost, right? Definitely, for sure, that might be an option, but, at this time, I think the program should be self-funded to a degree and self-supporting.
Mhm.
So-
Hi, good evening. If I may address the commission, Isabel
I'm-
Carlos,
I'm
Assistant
sorry.
City Manager.
Actually, it's
Okay.
closed for now.
Got it.
Commissioners, you mind reopening?
Mr. Chair, if I may, Isabel Carlos is a part of staff.
I know, but
Okay.
this is our discussion,
Yes, completely fine. Thank you.
so if you're okay? I'm okay with it, We'll go ahead and reopen public comment at this time, so.
Thank you. Thank you again. Isabel Carlos, Assistant City Manager for the city. And just to provide some final comments on this presentation, the last time we had a master plan for the city was over 15 years ago, and so much has changed. 15 years later, we're here to kind of present an overall plan for the next 10 years. And we want to first thank you for taking the time to review this document. We know it was so lengthy and there was so much involved, so many aspects of a very important thing to our city, which is parks and recreation. And we want to thank you for all your comments, your feedback, your input, your direction on what else could be included in this master plan. Those are all very important things. With that said, again, it's a master plan that is intended to be executed in the next 10 years. It could be a fluid document because so much changes over time. Priorities for the city may change, funding for the city may change, review, analysis of everything that is implemented or presented in here, whether it's staffing levels is reviewed, whether it's a new project. at the time point when that is going to be implemented, then there's additional reviews as to whether or not the funding is available, whether it's appropriate as far as staffing levels. So much that goes into the execution of the plan. We did bring in a consulting firm to assist with the master plan. It's what they do day in, day out, and they engage the community in various platforms. We had decided early on, we had to make a decision actually whether to wait on the master plan until COVID allowed for physical engagement of the public in this topic. And then it was decided that we would try to do it through COVID, through different platforms, and it actually turned out really great. We had a lot of input from a lot of different community stakeholders. We reached out to various organizations, the public, different platforms, and they all provided input. We heard them loud and clear. The information was provided to our consultants who further reviewed the parks and looked at everything, industry standards, and whether or not everything in the master plan that they were going to present was feasible. And they came up with this document. Again, just the master plan for over the next 10 years of what Parks and Rec should look at. It was also presented at various points throughout the process to our Parks and Recreation Committee, and they did provide the staff with direction as to maybe what to change, just as you guys are as well. And they were also excited about, moving this master plan forward so that at some point it could begin to be executed as the council approved, whether it was large projects or events, the staff was able to put them together, all in effort so that at the end of the 10-year plan, we could have an enhanced Parks and Recreation Department that served the needs of our community. It's fluid, it's a master plan. We hope to be able to implement everything. We will continue to look at the implementation process, the review of service levels and community needs throughout the master plan. I just wanted to make that known that it's a process and that we're going to be looking at it throughout the time during execution. With that in mind, if it changes over time where there's a greater need or a refocus, then we will bring it back to the Parks and Rec Committee to receive direction from them and then carry on with execution. I wanted to add that comment and answer any final questions, but thank you for allowing me to address the commission.
Thank you. Is any additional questions for staff? No.
No, you said it was fluid and it was going to continue to be looked at. I was trying to find, I notated somewhere there was going to be a yearly review. I wanted to know what the process was for that yearly review and who would look at it.
So for a review, it's always with every step, the staff, when we need outside assistance, when we reach out to consultants who are experts in the area, we reach out to the community. A lot of the things that we do in Parks and Recreation, or mostly everything, is to serve them. And if we're not engaging them, then we're not doing our job in hearing them and what they want, what kind of programs, what kind of amenities. Even with parks, whenever we're going to improve, redesign, the first step is to engage the community. What do you guys think we need? So the evaluation, the assessment is done at various levels with staff, absolutely paramount, the community, the Parks and Rec Committee. Ultimately, a lot of things go to the City Council, and so it's a process, as mentioned.
Okay.
But may add, evaluations, just to note, happen almost after every program, event, activity by our staff. Right, so we review, we determine whether it was successful, the number of participation, who was involved, do we need to bring it back? This is for events, programming, activities, sports, and we keep a close eye on that because, like you mentioned, we don't want to spend money if we don't have participation, if it's not successful. So that's actually ongoing throughout the year, and this is almost for everything that we offer to our community.
Okay. But is it presented to the community as a whole and, at any other time, or is this, they look at the master plan and?
Yeah, more the master plan. This is more internal that we do. And if we need to go to the community, if maybe there's a community member that asks, how come this is not happening again, then we share those results and those conversations with them.
Thank you.
And the master plan itself was developed with a lot of community engagement throughout the process. So it encompasses and embraces the spirit of what they asked for as a whole.
Okay. Thank you. Were the stakeholders, I was trying to find where I saw, were the local school districts included in these conversations? I couldn't see which district were included.
Yes, whenever we do engagement with the school districts, we include all of them. And I believe they were part of the stakeholder that was asked to provide input. And I don't know if you have specifics on that question.
During the community outreach, they were all invited to participate and give their input, their information. So as Ms. Carlos mentioned, when we invite one school, we invite all school districts, and they're more than welcome to participate in any outreach that we have. We have a pretty good relationship with our school districts. We provide a lot of programming, like I mentioned earlier, at their sites. So if they're willing to partner with us, then we're more than happy to attend their schools and any school district meetings, and vice versa. They're more than welcome to participate in ours.
Okay, and who would we invite? Because I've been working at the same school for years, and I've never seen a representative from this department.
Normally, the invitations, it just depends on the activity, but normally the invitations are done at the superintendent, assistant superintendent, level. It just depends on what it is, principals. But staff does work very closely with all the school districts. We have ongoing projects with them, whether it's creating gardens, providing resources for STEM curriculum, just any type of activity. There's an engagement at different levels. And that's aside from the master plan, it's an ongoing thing that we were great partners with them.
The community gardens I have seen, almost every single school at our district has a community garden. So, okay, that's it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Lopez, any further questions? No. Hammond?
No, I think I've spent a lot of time. I still stand by that concept, and I think you need to look at it. It's not an issue of the staff involvement. It's an issue of an independent body. You need to seriously look at that, because you need independence on audits. School boards are audited. They're audited independently. City of Los Angeles is audited independently. You always want independent review, and you also want people that are independent mediation that are vested interest in the city. So even like you're talking about this iWords application, you don't have full participation. So if there are 80,000 residents in the city of Paris, and you have probably less than 1%. To get that up there, you need a commission. You need them focused. I'm not going to go away from that. You need that focused group of people of every background, age, to mediate for you. A lot of the things we're talking about, Rec and Parks Committee, the council is 2 people. I love them both. I've known them for years, but it's not the same as having people that are representing your community from your area, from your area, from your area. And they have a voice, and they're going to be more involved in the whole process of Rec and Parks, particularly when you come to funding, to have 200 people sitting here instead of 2 people. Because they're going to have a say, because they know they have a body they can go to. So all these issues that we're talking about here, evaluation of the program, you're going to get a true evaluation program, because you're going to have people standing here yelling at you. So they're going to say, hey, in my community, we say this, but the lights are still out. We say that, but the homeless is still there. You have a body to formalize it. That's all I'm saying. You're formalizing everything. And so that makes it real work. If it's up to the city if you want to do it. But I'm just saying from experience, to not have that, you're going to really be depreciating. Okay? Because you have a lot of youth in this city. They're going to have a voice. They may want a voice on this thing. Because it's different for 12-year-olds and it's different than 62-year-old. Okay? So we can say this is what programs you want, and they don't show up. Or you have a body that says, oh, wait a minute, we're in the community and this is what they say they want. Okay. So it's a lot different when you're talking to folks than when you say, this is what you should have. You need residents. That's why they have to be residents to be on it. So that's just my suggestion. I'm emphasizing that for your benefit because I'm like you. I've been doing it almost 40 years, guys. Okay, I think I'm an expert. Okay, one of the few times I'm going to say that. And so if I'm saying it, you probably need to listen. Okay, you don't have to do it. It's up to the council, but you need to make that consideration because that's the only thing. It does fit in with this because it's an evaluation tool, and it's also one that's going to help get you the funding. Because you want to work with schools, you have to have high levels of people work with the school, and you need independent folks. Okay, so to know the principals, to know the superintendents, to know the school district, because they all have different attitudes. Because Paris Union High School is different than Palace Elementary. And if you don't know those bodies and know those folks, and the PTAs, if they still call them PTAs. See, yeah, the parents group who want to make presentations, they would make them here. See, now you see what I'm saying? It's not to demean the staff. It's just it adds another arm. That's an important mediation body. And I'll stop there. I've made my spiel. I'll stop there.
Okay, thank you.
But I think this is not a problem with this thing. I mean, it's laid out, it's detailed. You had to read 331 pages, and I had to read them. It's good because it's detailed.
Yeah.
And I didn't have any problems with it. This was just a recommendation at the end.
Yep. Is there any additional members of public wishing to speak on this matter, either present or on Zoom?
After me, I doubt it.
No, sir.
Yep, thank you. Go ahead and close public comment at this time and bring it back to commissioners for discussions. Any further discussions?
It is a very comprehensive, it was a long read. It really was. But it was very inclusive of a lot of information. It broke down the demographics. It broke down things in a very detailed way, what kind of exercises. And I know a lot of times we can't generalize. These are just kind of like ways to capture things. I liked it. I've never heard of pickleball. So now I'm going to go look it up. So I like the recommendations. I really like the graphs where it was talking about each goal and it was broken down and it was talking about what the impact was. Was it short term, midterm, long term? It was very comprehensive. I think I would have liked to see maybe a monitoring pages of how things are really going to be monitored with a kind of rubric or something there that was more detailed. I'm sure that knowing our staff, I'm sure they already have that in the works or they already have it in place. But it would have been nice to see something like a spreadsheet or something where how many times this worked. Is it the weather? Is it the time of day? Is it season? Is it kids went back to school and now they have all these activities? Is it Friday night and it's football games at the high schools? I would have liked to see something like that, but other than that, I really liked the graphs. It's visual, it's clear, and it was just a very detailed, highly organized document.
Yes, I just want to give my hats off to the Parks and Rec Center because I think the work that you guys have been doing over the last few months, especially from the beginning of last year to now, is very visible. I have noticed a lot of improvements on Copper Creek, Paragon Park, Morgan Park, and one of you mentioned that that you noticed there's more participation in the parks, and I have noticed that as well too. So thank you for that. Thank you for the hard work you guys been doing, and I don't think we're not perfect. We're far from it, but I think we're heading in the right direction.
Thank you. If there's no further discussion, if we could have a motion to adopt resolution number 21-14 to recommend to the City Council approve and adopt the Community Service Master Plan for 2021 through 2031.
Mr. Chair, if I may, the recommendation, I just want to make sure that we're adopting the resolution as presented to you, placed on your dais, the new version, the updated version of the resolution, not the one that was part of the agenda.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah,
The changes were mostly technical in nature. mostly about the recommendation to council about some C code language and just some cleanup. That's all it really was. Substantively, it's the same thing, recommending adoption or approval of this plan to the city council.
Yeah, and I didn't,
It's just a resolution.
I didn't catch the differences in there,
I
so
didn't.
I'm sure there is.
Okay. I don't have a problem. You ready?
We got a motion from Commissioner Jimenez and a second from Commissioner Hammond.
Oh, okay.
Yep. Commissioner Lopez,
Yes.
Commissioner Jimenez,
Yes.
Vice Chairman Hammond,
Yes.
and Chairman Shively.
Yes.
Lopez, Jimenez, Hammond, Shively, yes. Gomez, absent.
Okay.
Thank you. Do you mind if we take a quick 5-minute break? Yeah. All right. You okay with that?
And with that said, you can discuss and figure out if you want to nominate a chair and vice chair, and someone can make a motion, and our attorney can provide further feedback if needed.
So, thank you. If I can go ahead and open public comment for this item. One thing that just came off my head is that Commissioner Gomez is not here. Is it an item that maybe we should wait for her or can just vote without her?
Ask our legal.
Mr. Chair, if I may, you don't have to wait for Commissioner Gomez. It's certainly up to the commission's pleasure. If the commission does decide to continue the item to wait for Commissioner Gomez, that's perfectly acceptable as well. I would just recommend allowing public comment before entertaining such a motion.
Okay. So any member of public wishing to speak on this matter, either present or Zoom, may do so at this time. Go ahead and close public comment. Commissioners, do you wish to wait for Commissioner Gomez, or do you wish to move forward?
I would like to wait.
Commissioner Lopez?
I agree.
Emma?
Can't, so yeah. Are you gonna be here?
Are
No,
you
I'll be
okay
here.
with it, Chair?
I'll be here.
Yeah, that's the.
I think it would be the right thing for us to wait one more meeting and give her,
Give her her voice.
yes.
That's what I was thinking. So if we can have a motion to continue this item till the next,
There's
next,
just some desperate reason you have to have one.
I think Mr. Fung was saying that we would like a motion to continue it, if that's the pleasure of the commission, to the meeting of August 18th.
yes, sir. August,
Okay.
we can have a motion for continuation of this item to August 18th. We have a motion from Commissioner Jimenez and a second from Vice Chair Hammond.
Commissioner Lopez,
Yes.
Commissioner Jimenez,
Yes?
Vice Chairman Hammond,
Yes.
Chairman Shively,
Yes.
Lopez, Jimenez, Hammond, Shively, yes. Gomez, absent.
You have to do the other one too?
Yes.
Do we have to continue item 8B?
We don't.
Go separately, right?
No, we
Yes,
don't. Yeah.
for item 8B, I'm guessing this is where we've called it up now. The commission, at its pleasure, may continue the item as well. You would have to also entertain a motion to continue it to August 18th, if that's the pleasure of the commission. Of course, as always, I recommend entertaining a motion only after providing opportunity for the public to comment.
Yes. So for item 8B, if there's any member of public or on Zoom wishing to speak on this matter of nomination of 2 public commissioners for the ad hoc committee.
Oh, is that the vice president or you? Vice?
This is the ad hoc.
Ad hoc.
Ad hoc,
Yeah.
sorry.
Yeah, this is
What's
8B.
going on here? Okay, you gotta let me know.
I thought we did.
No, I thought it was doing the vice, but that was
Oh.
with the other one.
It is together.
Okay.
But there was, for item 8A, there will be two votes, one for Commissioner
Okay.
Chair and one for Vice Chair. So if there's no one wishes to speak on matter 8B, I'll go ahead and close public comment. And if everybody's okay with it, I am on it.
Okay, I nominate, Jack-
Do we wish to continue this?
Well, you two are already on it.
There's 2 of us on it.
Well, again, that's,
I'm okay with continuing to be on it.
Okay.
If that's okay with you, or if we wish to postpone this, we can also do that too, so Commissioner Gomez can have a chance.
I'm okay either way. I mean, both of us are on already
you're
that
already on, yeah.
are here. So with this one, I'm okay with
Either way.
either way.
Yeah, you can vote on
Commissioner Lopez, what's your opinion?
Yeah, I agree. I wouldn't mind either way as well.
Hammond,
Anything?
Be the deciding vote.
to continue it for,
It doesn't matter. If you did the other ones, you might as well do this one.
yeah, let's just give her a chance to voice
Yes.
her opinion.
Okay.
So if we can have a motion
continue
for
to the 18th.
continuation to August 18th.
August 18th. Okay. For ad hoc, whatever you call it.
Ad
Correct.
hoc.
It's a motion to continue item 8B to the meeting of August 18th.
Yes, sir.
Ad hoc,
We have a motion from Commissioner Hammond and a second from Commissioner Lopez.
ad hoc committee.
Commissioner Lopez,
Yes.
Commissioner Jimenez,
Yes.
Vice Chairman Hammond,
Yes.
Chairman Shively,
Yes.
Lopez, Jimenez, Hammond, Shively, yes. Gomez, absent.
Continue on to item 8, or excuse me, item 9. It's public comments. Anybody who wishes to address Planning Commission regarding items not on the agenda may do so at this time. Is there any member of public wishing to speak at this time? Seeing none or hearing none on Zoom, we'll go ahead and close public comment and bring it to item 10, Commissioner members' announcement and reports. Commissioner Jimenez.
Got me drinking water. My parents were visiting the other day, and they were really impressed with how much is going on in the city and the developments that are going up. They're really looking forward to KFC. I finally had Chick-fil-A, and I've had it 2 times, and it was crazy because there was no line. I was ready to sit there for an hour, and we got high school kids at the drive-thru, and they were just so polite, so welcoming. It was just beautiful, and they had the beautiful signs of the ones that graduated this last year. So it was really nice to see that our community celebrating all the achievements of our students. Today was our official first day back, and it just felt amazing to be back with people and see people and, in person, masks on. I like all the guidelines safety precautions that we're taking. So I'm hoping that this school year, I'm very hopeful that we can continue and complete the year in person. So I'm excited I'm here in a very good mood today.
Commissioner Lopez.
Yes, I just want to say, I just want to wish good luck to all the students that are returning to school. I think this week and next week for the school districts in our area. I just want to say it's crazy because my younger brother, he left as a sophomore. Now he's going to be returning this year as a senior. So, yeah, so like it's a long gap. So I could only imagine how it's going to take some adjusting to do. But I only hope that they hit the ground running. And I want to thank also the teachers that are going to be going back and the staff members for the schools. I wish them the best of luck, and I wish them a good school year.
Thank you. Commissioner Hammond?
Yeah. Do you have the booths around each one of the class desks where they have the glass and all the other stuff? They don't have that, do they?
Walk in with a bubble.
It's crazy. No, I appreciate the things that are going on in the city. Even Getro's made a lot of great improvements. They got a class 4 bike lane with the pollards there. And maybe they'll get enough money to widen the 2 lanes all the way down, because it's definitely these 2 lanes. But the city staff is great. I've ripped them to pieces every other night. That's fine, because they're good. That's why I rip them to pieces. But because we have an excellence standard with this commission that we maintain, and that's why we ask a lot of questions. That's why I do things like tonight, because it's a standard. You start making standards for improvement out there. You have great buildings. You have beautiful facades. You don't have elongated whitewash stuff. You start looking at landscaping. We're starting to see that, and so we're starting to see a lot of good things. And I've eaten the Chick-fil-A about 5 times instantly. But yeah, there's stuff coming, and I think we can look back and say, wow, we were actually a part of it. I didn't build a thing, but we can at least say we were part of it. We voted for it. I appreciate this young man coming on board, having to deal with somebody like me. But it's a pleasure that people still want to get involved in the city. And I want to thank Judy. Holly and I go back to the original Planning Commission We were both 20 years old. Come on. Yeah, yeah, right.
She's still 20.
Yes. Yeah. Or I'll get it later, right? No, I really appreciate that. I mean, we go back to the beginning, and it's good that the reunion came back tonight. She's used to me being a troublemaker, so it's nothing new for her. But staff too. Lastly, we want to say we appreciate staff. We had a great group of staff here. I've known her. I'm not just saying because she's USC, but Sabrina Villa, I've seen her come up to the ranks. I've seen Elizabeth, all of them come up to the ranks. I can't believe I've been here that long. But you have great and excellent staff. But I constantly push to raise the bar, and so it's not being taken personally. It's just I'm going to keep pushing because we have to be passionate about the city if you're going to be up here. And I'm very passionate, as you saw tonight. Sometimes too passionate, but you gotta really love this city, and you gotta really love it enough to where you're gonna kind of go outside the box. And that's what I like about Paris. You got a great staff, but we can still do better. And we point out things, and take your time to think about it. Maybe it's not so bad after all, And so we're seeing the results of that. I'm surprised we didn't have our engineer tonight. He got off the hook tonight, but that's okay. We'll let him off. But anyway, I'm sure Kenneth is our marijuana czar. Is that what they call him too? There's a lot of hats over there, but I appreciate
I would like to just mention that Commissioner Hammond and I had an opportunity to visit the opening or the ceremony for Green Valley Park. It's going to be an amazing park. There, I believe it's 32 or 36 acres. They're looking at phase 1, and I believe there's 3 soccer fields, 2 baseball fields, basketball court. It's going to be good to see, especially in the southern part of Paris. It'll be welcome, especially for the new residents of Green Valley. How fast they're building there. They're just every time I drive by, it's just new houses springing up all the time. So it was good to see, and just for phase 1. So I expect it's going to be more grandeur phase 2 than phase 1. So.
And I forgot to mention I went to the Morgan Street 2 park opening. It was hard, but I use the old term natural turf. I don't know what they call it today, but it's a turf.
Yeah.
So it's a soccer field, and it has like a mile. I don't know if it's a mile, a quarter mile around it. A lot of ants. But you can walk all the way around it, and it's beautiful, clean, done parking. I mean, there's just another tribute to the staff and working with them, and it has bleachers, aluminum benches, but it has aluminum benches on each side, so you can have teams, you can cheer, and it got moved from Patriot Park there. So Patriot Park, I think, is football now. They're going to have a practice field for football and the main field for the football. So they got the soccer out of there and moved it over there. So it's in a different area. It also has soccer fields on the north side that's been there for a while, and I think the trail, which Kenneth might know more about, the trail I think is along Morgan. I didn't see it, but there's a bicycle trail, which I've been on those bicycles, but it's there too. So we're coming up. Okay. Mm-hmm.
Yep. So I wish Commissioner Gomez well, and I hope it's nothing serious. So if Kenneth, Mr. Fong, if you want to take item 11, Directors and Development Services reports.
Good evening, Chairman, Chaplain, members of the Planning Commission. I almost got a little confused tonight because Judy Honey was here, and I thought I was going to say Chairman Honey, but yes, it got me a little confused. But it was great having her back. Every once in a while, we have the privilege of her presence, and she runs this meeting very smoothly. She knows all the ins and outs, even though she hasn't been here for quite a bit of time. But we always appreciate seeing her. She's always welcome to come back anytime she wants. As for just a few updates, and just for your planning purposes, we will have a meeting on August 18th. So just put that on your calendar. And also, we had one outgoing planning commissioners, and we always want to recognize people who serve. It's a very hard job. Times like this when we have a Parks master plan, it's 300 pages, that's very time consuming, and we just want to acknowledge people who have served on our commission. So at the next meeting, Alfonso Hernandez will be here. We just want to recognize him and probably have some food and some refreshment. So We'll send out an email before the meeting. We should just try to get here a little bit early and just enjoy and just to recognize his service to the city. Other than that, I just want to bring things to your attention real quickly. If you haven't done the ethics and sexual harassment training, please sign up. There's an option to do it online. I believe there's a deadline date. If you haven't done it, please pay attention to your email from Human Resources. The other thing is we need to do it. If you haven't done the Form 700, please do so. They're all done. Oh, perfect, great. Okay, that's great. Okay. And then the last announcement is pay attention for an email from Sylvia Arvizu. We're going to just get some dates out for a tour of just high-density development. So we'll throw out some dates, but so pay attention to those emails, and we can kind of narrow down a date to kind of take a tour. I'm assuming the day that best works for the commission is a Friday. So if you can, hopefully we'll send out an email later this week, and we can kind of narrow down a date. With that said, I hope everyone has a great evening and enjoy your weekend. And it's a little early, but look forward to your weekend. It's been a very busy for everybody. The economy is doing really well, so have a good time, the weekend, okay? And have a good evening.
So if I could just add, you guys might have received an email from Know Before.
Yeah.
It is about security and internet security, so you need to do that.
Oh, okay.
It's legitimate. I
It's
wasn't
legitimate.
sure.
So,
Yeah.
yeah,
no
Know Before.
Yeah.
Right, if there's nothing further, then if we can have adjournment.
I move. Okay, that could matters. Yeah. And Isaac. Okay. Yeah, Isaac and me, we're done. We need to vote? Yes, okay.
Commissioner Lopez,
Yes.
Commissioner Jimenez,
Yes.
Vice Chairman Hammond,
Oh, yes.
Chairman Shively,
Nay.
and we have Lopez, Jimenez, Hammond, Shively, yes, Gomez, absent. Yes. Yes.